Um, One second, let me just go Jamaicans.com.
It's green,
It's
so I guess we're live. Because it turned green by itself blue.
okay.
Right?
So
White
when
box,
it's going
then
here on the
green by
website,
itself.
how do you get it to, how do you send or stream it?
Okay.
White cast turned green by itself.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're on.
Then that means you should be live, right? If it's green.
Let's make sure that we are. No, can't pause it at this time. Just
It's now 5 o'clock.
If anybody puts saying, I know I'm alive. I'm all alive.
All live.
okay.
What is it, 24/7?
Double check you.
I'm just double checking, guys.
Until I'm live no more.
Okay, folks, we are certainly alive. Live and here at Moments to Remember. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Luke Ballantyne, and I'm coming to you from Moment to Remember studio here in Sunrise, Florida. Welcome to Bar Talk. I am very excited. It's the first evening, and I'm very excited to be on Jamaicans.com. I've watched the site, I've watched the streaming for quite a while, and I really, really love the vibes. It's very informative. It's very, it's thought-provoking, to say the least, and entertaining. And so I'm just hoping, starting this evening and for a couple of weeks, that this little show, Bar Talk, would just add to that. So it leads us to the question, what is Bar Talk? It's an inspiration that came to me essentially from walking into a furniture store, and I saw a used bar. It's a mahogany bar, complete with the metal rungs on the bottom.
Yeah.
And I looked at it, and it simply transformed me back to Jamaica, because my daddy had a bar. And so as a kid, I never get to go in the bar very often. But the few times that I did to go in the bar, I heard men having conversations that were deep, and some of it very sensitive. I'm quite sure if you that's not a conversation these guys could have with their family members at home. And if you really minus the liquor and some of the expletives, the conversations were really, really good. So I just thought we would create a show, Bar Talk, driven mainly by guys who will talk about things in a kind of environment like the bar. Because the bar, in my impressions, like the beauty salon and the barber shop, are places what I call comfort zones.
Right.
You get your hair cut, you do that kind of stuff, and you basically talk freely.
That's right.
And you talk
That's
without
right.
anybody kind of making a judgment against you.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping we can do the same thing here. And of course, it's male driven. The guys are at the bar here, and I'll introduce them first and foremost. But I also want to let you understand that we do have a studio audience, and the ladies are in the audience. Say, hey, ladies! Hey! Okay, so, so their role is to fact check us, because sometimes you guys we act. Yeah,
We do what guys do.
we do what guys do. So
All
it's a matter of a fact check as well as give us a reality check. And so I brought along a couple of friends with me this evening. And so starting off, DJ Kevin Stew.
True.
KevinStew.com, the night shift with Kevin Stew. Just a wonderful friend. I've known him for years. And if you want somebody who can really stand by you no matter what, he's been there. I couldn't find anybody better to have on a first show like Kevin. And I have Mr. Nelson.
That's kind of scary.
Mr. Nelson, here is Dennis Nelson. I met this brother from the Sunrise Chamber of Commerce. And let me tell you something, since then we just bonded, we just click. It's a good brother. I appreciate having you here, man.
He has that energy.
And he has that energy. So my thing is, we're going to talk about some topics over the next couple of weeks. We're talking about kids, we're talking about aging, we're talking about men's health, we're talking about intimacy, old men, young ladies, old men, that kind of stuff.
It's the same
We're
thing.
the same difference.
It's December,
We're talking
June
about
relationship.
finance and how it relates to all of that. And so, in addition, we're going to make sure while we talk, we have the studio audience with the ladies, and they're going to chip in from time to time. But we're asking you as the
wider audience.
the wider audience to just tune in, tell us what you think, give us a feedback of stuff.
So everybody's sharing this.
And everybody's sharing, and we, if you're listening now, I suggest find somebody, tell them there are a bunch of guys are here talking stuff, and just see what they're saying. This topic for this evening so happens to be over 45, single, and dating. The good, the bad, and the baggage. And so, funny thing about it is that when I started about this subject, I realized, in fact, I didn't plan on being at this seat. I probably wanted to be behind. As you guys who know me, I'm a photographer. I like to be behind the camera. And then when I found myself in front of the camera, I decided, let me do a little research. And then I realized that there are varying levels of conversation about being over 45 and being single. In fact, one lady on her show said it's an epidemic. I don't know how she got that. It's an epidemic. The over 45 and single is an epidemic because so many people find themselves after being married and all that kind of stuff to be
There's
single.
a high numbers.
It's a high number. So I'm going to throw it out to you guys. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, over 45, let's start. The good, the bad, and the baggage. Kevin, the good.
You don't have a lot of the running around frivolous. There's a lot more focus involved with dating over 45, I believe. At that age, people tend to have more of an identity or an idea of their identity, who they are. And they would typically know that, all right, this is something that I want to do for a period X for a reason Y, versus, boy, everybody else doing it, so I'm going to do it too. They're more of an individual and recognize their individuality. So I believe that is one of the benefits.
Okay. I just want to interject real quickly because we have quite a few people chiming in. So let me say hi to Clinton DaCosta. Thanks for being here, man. You're watching. KB says hi. We're going to Gail. Hello from Maryland, USA. We have Iona Russell from Boston. How is it in Boston? Renee, Vincent, Renee, Damon Brown, and we have Sharon Watson. Hi, everybody.
And they're watching where?
And they're watching from different places, from Orlando, from Boston, Jamaican.com.
Okay.
I would suggest to you guys that you just tell everybody else that there's a bunch of guys here talking stuff, and if you need to fact check us or to compliment us from what we're doing, just call in and let us know. All right, your turn. The good.
The good. So, dating over 45, the good. Certainly is a contrast between being 20, 25 and dating. There's a difference in, by that age, you are more certain, or the concept is you would be more certain as to what your wants are. What are you looking for specifically with someone? Because you've learned along the way, or should have learned along the way, the things you don't want.
Yes.
You know, and so I think it's more of an awareness over 45 where you can be specific and say, I'm looking for these for the following reasons. So your criteria will change from 20 plus as opposed to when you're 45.
Right.
All right. As for me, I believe that age, and I'm glad you mentioned that because it comes on to something that I was reading just this morning. They say at 45, by now you should know what you want. But they also say because you know what you want, the field shrinks. Because you know what you want and you're going for what you want.
Yes.
And because of that, rather than trying to open your eyes and expand. You tend to be more focused. I am this, and so I want this person, that person. And we still kind of going back like when we back in high school, and we're still dreaming of whether it's tall, dark, and handsome, or 36, 24, 36. We're still having those notions about what we want. So it says on the good side is that by the time we turn a certain age, we should know exactly what we want. But at the same time, the downside of that is that sometimes what we claim we want and we're not willing to expand our ideas, then as a result, we sometimes pigeon focus where we're looking for, who we're looking for. Okay. I'd like to just ask one of the ladies to step up beside Kevin, if you want to, and chime in, because one of the things I found this morning is that they say even at over 45, the picking fields or the fields seem to favor the guys. Because this is what I don't understand, ladies, and maybe you can explain to me. They said that the ratio is still at over 45 up to 60. The ratio gives favor to men because it's four women to every man. So in other words, we have a better notion to pick and choose. Is there any truth in that?
Oh, so our options, we're the ones with the options.
Yes. Aha. And yeah, come on down. Come on down. Just come on down. If you want to step beside Kevin, let us know.
Oh, stand beside.
Introduce yourself to us.
Rest on my shoulder if you
Yeah,
want.
yeah. Introduce yourself and just tell it, you know.
Hi, I'm Juliet Stedman, and I'm over 45.
Really?
Yes. I know I don't look it, but. Okay, so my thing is over 45, and you are all that you guys have said. You're supposed to know what you want at this stage. But I'm still finding guys who still have no clue as to what they want. They start off one way, they say some things, but eventually you find out that they're not grounded. They're not conscious of exactly what it is that they want. They are still 45 and over, they're still just dating just like that. As in a woman's case, at this age, we're dating with a purpose. We want to go somewhere. We have no more time, and we're not going to rush it, or we're not going to just settle, because we're not going to take just about anything.
So hold on. Can I just interject? Because you just said something that, what are you saying then? You're saying that guys, that the ladies, first of all, it's understandable that a girl at 16 is a little bit more mature than a 16-year-old guy. But you want to just suggest to me, or suggest to our audience here, that at 45,
it's
both people 45 is the same thing?
No, you got no, but at least we're expecting, we're at least expecting you to be a little further than you were at the 20 that we're talking about. So you should at least have a little more knowledge, a little more surety as to what you want and as to how you're going to go about getting what you want and what you need to do to get what you want, and sometime to get what you want and maintain and hold on to what you got.
So in essence to that comment, you're saying, so communication is certainly primary.
Communication is key. I think communication is one of, people say trust, but I think communication is like the number one thing in a relationship. Like number one. Because without communication, you won't have the trust. Because you need to be able to communicate the trust.
Okay.
Because
No argument there.
you and I are talking, and I need to be able to ask you questions. And you need to answer questions. And this is probably a different topic, but men seem to evade questions or don't want to answer questions. Don't want to answer questions.
And you find that to be the case with over 45-year-old men?
Yes, like sometimes you want you. Okay, so and here where we are at 45. Now, when I was younger, I would entertain. Okay, you're not talking. You're not giving me all the information that I need, and I would kind of give you a little pass, maybe because I was not, I want to say, not mature enough, not conscious enough in a sense, because you're saying, okay, we go back and we give you guys passes. Okay, he's a man, so men don't like to talk, men don't like to explain things. But as you get older, as I get older, I'm like, no, if you don't want to talk to me, then bye.
Well, can I interject right there? Because I'm looking at some of the responses.
That's right.
And
That's right.
Gail says, men say they know what they want. Actually, they don't know even as they grow older.
Here's
Hold a second. Let me see if I can get another of the ladies. Come on down, Joan. You can. Yes, come on, Joan.
Response to that comment. We got to revisit that.
Yeah.
yeah, okay, there are things like that I want to touch on.
Let me hear them out first. In fact, you may need to stand right beside
We're gonna have to come back.
Dennis, because we may have to come back to
We got to
this.
revisit
Yes,
that one.
okay.
No question.
So Gail, somebody's going to tackle this. So here's Joan is going to respond. Whether she's responding to your question, or is that what you're responding to, Joan?
I want to respond to probably about when you reach 45, what some of the things that could be going on there in the man's world, in his thinking. Also, he starts to want to reflect and redefine himself. And sometimes he's starting to compare himself to his peers and what's going on in their life. One of the things I know at 45, you are in a position where you're sometime they call it sandwich generation, because some may be having kids going off to college, although you may be single, you may be getting divorced. So you transition in, and then you start to even look at your own self. Am I really a failure? Or am I being successful? What's women really looking for in me? And then with the woman that you're looking for again, it might be someone, am I looking for someone my age, younger than my age, or older than my age? And sometimes that can be the challenge. So they're really not sure. And as he says, the host says, the baggage. There's so many baggages that are going to be coming along.
What would you consider some of the baggages then? Talking about baggage, because that's one of the things I want to touch on as we continue. One of the things that like I said, I was looking at stuff this morning, and one of the things I realized that baggage, sometimes when we talk about baggage, we talk about kids, ex-husband, mortgage, credit, all that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But the thing is that baggage can also be how much we get stuck in experiences. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that was mentioned. We get stuck in experiences. So we had a situation with a husband or a wife who was alcoholic. So the first time you meet a new guy who takes up a bottle of drink, is now a write-off because he looks like your ex-husband. Or the fact that you have had guys some guys who they laugh and talk and they giggle and they never seem to be serious. Now suddenly you're stuck in a rut that any man that has a sense of humor ain't serious. So that's another side to the baggages that that does exist. Would you agree, yes or no?
I would agree in some of those cases, because it also takes you back. You mentioned about if you see someone take up a glass or even smoking, but sometimes these are experiences from the childhood days that are there as the baggage that has not been dealt with. So it's even it prevents you from even just immerse yourself into a new experience, a new relationship, and take it for what it is, because you're coming with all these past experience, and you're so afraid not to be vulnerable, and that's where sometimes the relationship, after probably a week or two or a month, you really start to redefine what is in this for me, what I would really want. Am I want to move forward with this, or what do I need to do?
So a key point to that, if I may, a key point to get back to communication, okay? Also what was said, so it's piggybacking, and it's relevant, is when you communicate with someone, we all have different meanings to things. And if a woman, as you just said, or as Luke just said, is things are happening and the way this person performs or the way this person speak, you're talking but you're not really communicating. Okay, so if someone has childhood behaviors, a habit, it's hard to break it overnight. So if that person, if you're locked in to that relationship and it has a certain value, when you speak to that person, then you want to now assess and talk and not just say, okay, wait, if this person is this and they don't know what they want, it's over. No, if you're interested in that person, especially at 45 and you've been down that road multiple times. So the way you communicate with that person, if in fact there's a true interest, okay, we have to employ patience and agree on a few things. We can agree to agree and we can agree to disagree about this subject matter and let it stay there and not take it in wherever else we go in our travel.
Here, just before, let me interject because I'm trying to go through. Thank you guys. Our fans are actually calling in, and they're not calling. They're actually giving their ideas, and some of the ideas I'm trying my best to go through them. For example, Andrew Reed says, and it's very important because this is something we probably need to look at, and it's a totally different take. I don't know if this is considered a baggage or it is just something that you have to deal with. She says, if I meet a male who is 50 and older and who is still single and have never been married, I stay far away as most of the time. Sometimes it's always wrong with something is always wrong with them. 2, they don't sit in they're not set in their ways, or 2, they are so set, I should say, in their ways. They are not very flexible at all in changing their ways. So now, here's another issue. So I thought some people think it's a virtue that somebody has been kept themselves, have never been married. But here's a sister who's saying that if I meet a guy who is single and never been married, she gonna run to the hills because what? He may not be that kind of guy that is pliable or flexible or coachable.
Let me say something here.
Kevin, let me have the ladies interject. I hear Joan says she wanna, and I still haven't heard anything from Cheryl. So let Joan
I just want to respond to that person that you read about. I wouldn't really want to say there is probably a negative tone to that person because right now we're in a generational transition where a lot of men and women are delaying starting a family at an early age. They're looking to career building, their own foundation building, they're looking for their own security. So sometimes that's what's been happening. For women, the longer you wait, your chances probably get much narrower. For men, over 45, sometimes they're just at their prime for them to start a relationship. Because our generational is so acceptable of men at whatever age they are to date younger women. While for women, as the older you get, your threshold gets much narrower. So people are looking at, you're probably going to date your age, or then if you're going younger, they say you're a cougar. So those are some of the things. So men still has an opportunity. So I really said right now we're in a transition that the men at certain age, at 50, it doesn't necessarily because something is wrong why they are not having a relationship, they've never been married, but maybe their focus and their foundation setting is what was their priority.
Right.
And
So
I tend to agree with Joan on that because I don't think because you have waited a long time means that
you're not a viable candidate.
Right. I don't believe in that because just the same way, some women, we wait a while because we're just not going to settle. I think it's the same way that a man is looking for a particular woman or some of those points that you made, and if he doesn't find that woman, then pretty much he's just going to wait. So I don't think of it as he's somebody to run away from. He'd probably be a very good candidate. He's really holding on to himself and trying to make sure that he finds the right woman, not marry today and have to divorce, tomorrow,
one of the things to really recognize in all of this is that men and women are not that much different. That's one of the things. Another thing is a man 45 and over, just like Andrea said, tends to be set. They're set in their ways, and again, at this point, they have found their identity. They're aware of who they are. And when you look at that, you have to think, all right, this person is set in their ways. Does that, am I as a woman okay with that way? That man is quite comfortable with himself. If he's never been married and at age 50, and he's happy with life, you really think that as a woman you're going to come into his life and make it any better? If he doesn't want you there. The other thing is, with women, there is this change machine that they will turn on. And they'll meet a guy and say, okay, he's this, but this right here. And then they decide to turn on the change machine. That may work with a 20-year-old, may work with a 30-year-old. When you get to someone at 40, 45 and older, what are you going to change?
So essentially, you are agreeing with a lady that says if a man is 50, that's essentially what you're saying.
He's setting his way.
Yes, it's setting his way.
But typically, as individuals, man or woman, by the time you get to a certain way, you're just setting your ways. I'm not saying that they cannot change. This comes back to the communication.
The motivation.
And
why would he want to change?
Yes.
With the communication comes a bit of knowledge.
That's right.
With knowledge comes change.
That's correct. Implementation.
Yes. Well, if you get the knowledge and you're not applying it, then how wise are you?
Well, Daly says
You know.
that communication, and let me go back to where she said it. She says communication is key. Men don't want us to have the key. That's why they don't like communicating unless it is absolutely necessary.
You know what? Let me touch on this communication thing. Let me address this communication thing a little bit. Because in our community, when I say our community, I mean the Jamaican community. When we're growing up, especially growing up in Jamaica, the whole idea of communication is telling somebody what to do. Communication is a two-way street.
That's right.
A lot of us have grown up in Jamaica with communication being one way. I'm communicating with you. So I'm talking at you.
Instead
I'm
of with.
talking to you.
Instead of
I'm
with.
talking with you.
That's right. That's
So we're
right.
not communicating. And unfortunately, it is round about this time, the 45 and older time in life, that either they're having a drink, talking to some friends and realizing and thinking back and saying, wait a minute, you know, I've been doing it this way all this time and I've not been finding success. I wonder why. So now we start looking into it and we're at the bar and now we can communicate.
That's right.
Okay, let me see. I see Cheryl stepping up to the plate. So now,
Mercy.
let's see what's happening. Come in closer to him, Cheryl. Yes, here we go.
Draw close to the chair. I bite.
The only point I want to make at this time is, from the beginning, what kind of foundation was laid before you even stepped into
Which beginning?
speaking that much into a relationship?
Well, if we're dating, I don't know if everybody sees dating the way I see it. How I see dating is we're getting to know each other.
Right, so when you're getting to know each other, then that's the time when questions are asked to see
Right.
exactly where each person is coming from.
Right.
I'm over 40.
One day I'm going to believe
You're,
it. Keep saying it, you'll believe it too.
you're over 45. Exactly where are our goals at this time. Because a woman, to me, a woman over 40 usually knows exactly where she's heading. She knows whether she wants the man with a big belly or somebody with kids or
It's okay, you the kids.
or etc., because I don't want them to keep filling up their stomach and then they get short of breath, okay? However, at that point, I mean, from day one when you start, assessing everything and figuring out exactly where you're going, then you're going to be listening, first of all, to see exactly what this guy is saying. Is he on any one of my wavelengths? And if he isn't, then it don't really make no sense starting. You know?
Okay.
So that's my point at this time.
Dennis, what's your response to that?
Well, again, it's about the want. There's certain key words that if we focus on it, a man and a woman, to your point, a man, and to your point as well, at 45, he's set in his ways and he doesn't want to change. And you said, what possibly could that woman come and bring to his life now? Now, here's the thing. I believe that if that man truly wants that woman, if they have a connection, because it has to start somewhere. Yeah. And here's the reality. The reality is, from a 20-year-old, 30, whatever, you go in a car lot, you see the car, it's the shiny, beautiful car. Hey, I like that one. And that's what I'm going to go after. However, under the hood, that car possibly can't. Yeah. The performance is just not there on many different levels. It's a lemon.
It's a lemon.
It's a lemon. So let's say, as you evolve, and now hence 45, you have an idea what you want. So the woman is coming in, and if that man truly wants her, the way the conversation will go or should go is going to determine, is it a season or a reason? Okay? Why are they there together? Why are they talking? And if a woman has the mindset for the change machine, all right, meaning the intention is to change that man, I'm going to change him. And oftentimes, I think statistically, we should ask, how many ladies actually, that's their thought process, that they want to change him?
I don't know how many have been successful in that change.
Okay, let me just get a feedback from Tiffany. Tiffany, and you may have to feel this one also, Dennis. Tiffany says, men are less likely motivated to change because in most cases they pick women who are financially inferior to them. So in their minds, what should they change? They believe that they hold all the cards. This is why it is more difficult for them to deal with a woman in their own age group who are well established and who do not need to rely on them financially. Go with it.
Okay. So my take on that is simply this, and it's going to echo what I was saying before with some variations. I think if a man truly wants that woman...
I need another drink.
I need a stiffer drink.
If the man truly wants that woman, it's like in a relationship. What was just said is a two-way street, that comment. Because if it's financial, if the finances is a concern, there are women that if the man isn't financially where depending on her head and her mindset, if the man isn't financially in that position, she doesn't want to have anything to do with the man.
So let me
That's
ask
one
you,
side.
let me interject right there. So then, is your credit score a part of dating?
Absolutely.
Seriously.
Absolutely.
That's a different argument, though.
But it's a different argument, but it's relative.
It's part of the baggage.
It's part of the baggage.
It's part of the baggage. Let me let him finish it though. Right.
I believe it's part of the baggage. So the flip side is, yes, the ladies are going to, if that's their mindset, because I think most women are, the way their makeup, they want to feel secure. They want that security to know because of how they were raised. And so that's part of it. Little girls were raised a certain way, they have to have security. So we should understand that. So that actually, if nothing else, sets the playing field to have a genuine conversation. If in fact that's it. If a woman says that, then actually have a conversation about that.
Right.
Okay? So the bottom line is still, again, communicating and seeing what is the wants if in fact you find this person interesting and intriguing enough that you want to, pursue it and just have a genuine conversation.
All right, I'll go with that. Lou, you touched on something about in the realm of finances. And a rich man and a man with a good credit score can be two completely different men. Because you have your man that has the money that will buy the whatever, but their credit score is what? And you have the one that have the good credit score that they're so tight on with their budget because of how the finances run.
Right.
Now, here's my thing. A woman looking for a wealthy man would probably want to have that credit score discussion. Because that good credit score takes quite a bit of work in attaining and maintaining. So, with that, now you're starting to get into the character of the man. Is he one that is going to just carelessly use a credit card because he has one? Okay, what does that say about the way that he will take care of his home, himself, those who are around him, those that he is in charge of?
Right.
And I use that term loosely.
Loosely, right.
You know, it speaks to the man. Now, do they get to that point where the conversation is along the lines of the credit score? How many times have you sat with a woman and had a credit score conversation? Whether it be to attain it, maintain it, or lose it?
That's a good question.
Good question.
That's a very good question. I
That's
think
like
it'll be interesting for the ladies to chime in on that one.
Well, I know, for example,
Juliet?
Juliet want to step up to the plate and deal with it. So come on, Juliet, bring your glass, man. Bring your glass.
Let me.
Yeah, it's okay to travel and drink.
Over here.
It's okay. Now, on the credit score, you brought up a good point there, where
Oh, you want to come on my side?
That's right.
You like on
that's
this
where the
side?
camera is.
The camera is everywhere. It was over there. But I
Well,
like it over
I
there.
like. This is my favorite color. So.
Okay. I'll let you have it.
So on the issue of credit, like you said, really, it's not, in my experience, really, it's not a lot of time that really comes up in the initial part of it. Like
You've had it come up in later stages of this?
like later stages, but not in the initial part. Which as you go on dating, you realize that okay. Let me back up. I think for me, like you were talking about the change machine and financially, people, you want to be secure. But personally, I've always been financially secure. So I never get into a relationship looking for somebody to take care of me.
Okay.
So I guess I'm not so focused on the credit, or I was not focused so much on the credit, because you are not looking for certain things, even though later on you might, going down a certain road now, you might be thinking that, well, that's probably something that I should have looked at, or else you probably would not have.
So you will date a broke guy?
Well, it depends. It depends. I'm not a materialistic person, so things happen in life.
Okay.
Things happen in life, and a guy may not be where he should be,
Or where you think he should be?
or maybe where I think he should be, but at the same time, if you know a situation,
Right.
say he had a business or whatever, he fell on his face. I'm not gonna not talk to somebody because now you're down. Sometimes somebody just needs a woman there to just push him, to just pick him up. And
And hold that thought, because this might be in line with that, and you can add that to it. I'm back to Tiffany Reed. Tiffany says finances are always a concern. Most marriages break up over finances. If the man feels financially stressed, he will be emotionally disconnected. And I'm just going to check. I know when he emotionally disconnect, you know how things disconnect, right? Tiffany, you didn't say that, but I just want to impute that into it. Okay, but she continues to say disconnect because he may view the woman as a burden. If a man and I feel that way, if I was a man and I would feel that way. Majority of women who are unhappy with their mates stay because of that. Finances, if you have $1 million, then they would be out the door. Finances cannot be ignored.
Okay. I'm not saying to ignore finances. I'm saying that the communication didn't involve the talk of finances. And even, especially, I can talk about what I know. A Jamaican man, being one myself, don't usually talk about their finances to their woman. They may talk about it to another woman. They may talk about it at the bar. But they're not talking about it to their woman. And that's a part of the communication that I believe is missing. Because here it is, you're supposed to be building something. And a part of dating is the building. A big part of dating is the building. And most of us probably, well, I don't know how many people actually see it that way. But in this building is all facets of the building. The finances, the health, the mental, which falls under health, but often is omitted. All these things, they're not in the communication. What is a part of the communication is where we're going next, who paying for dinner, what kind of clothes you like to wear, what brand you like.
No, I think those are the trivial stuff. I don't.
Yes.
I think those are the trivial stuff, and finances come in when you get to a certain stage. If I'm dating you, initially I want to know, I want to see more of you before I even think we're going anywhere. So further down the line, of course we're going to have that conversation, but I need to check you out first. I need to be dating you and see that I even want to have that conversation with you. Okay. That conversation is not just going to come up because I'm thinking of going somewhere, but I want to know when I decide or when I see, because you're talking, we're communicating, and communication now is different somewhat from back home.
So you're assessing to see if he's a fit.
Exactly, to see if I even want to have that conversation with you. Because if I go out with you a couple of times and you're not making any sense, you're not speaking my language, certain things are not in line with what I want. Number one, spirituality. If you're not on that path, there is no compromise on that. So you could have the whole of Fort Lauderdale, but your spirituality is on a different level, then
Okay.
Those are your deal breakers. That's a deal breaker.
Let me just check. So for our online viewers, I know I haven't mentioned it again since we started. The topic of this evening has been over 45, single, and dating. The good, the bad, and the baggage. So now I see Joan is on deck, and she has something to say. Go ahead, Joan.
Well, I have to agree with Juliet about the spirituality, because that is, if that's your foundation, you really want to have someone who is really on that path also, because you have to look at this is your values and this is what you want. So the morale of the person also, their values. However, I want to also piggyback on, you mentioned a culture, you mentioned Jamaica. And I want to bring to the forefront that expectation is one of the things that cultural expectation, as there was mentioned about the earning, the finances. There are so many different cultures, and it's so challenging for probably because I am from a Caribbean background. It's always most time being said that men should be the provider. But here in America, you realize your interaction with many different cultures that men doesn't always have to be the provider, a sole provider. So sometimes our men from the Caribbean background sometimes are influenced by those beliefs that they were brought up with, and it can really be an obstacle in a relationship that if the man is not financially secure as the woman, then it become they look at themselves and they don't feel like, okay, I can work with this relationship. I can be involved in that relationship. So I think also the women need to set the path so these men, our men, can develop the confidence that there is a lot of support
So
and
Joan,
communication.
So let me ask, because I understand that, but I've heard, it's a lot of what I've been said on the road. I said publicly, because I remember one lady saying about a guy that she liked him, but she is too old to be babysitting a grown man. And so when I asked her what she meant by that, she says, at a certain age, a man not supposed to be using her expression, trying a thing. You should have him thing ready, So that narrows down the scope, because you may have a guy who may be trying to get ahead with certain things, trying to get and life may not have been all that good with him from the get-go, but he is still optimistic. Does that necessarily disqualify him from being a likely candidate?
Those are not things that should be. You have to look at Julia talk about, we have to develop a relationship, a communication, talk. You get to know the person's background, values. There's a lot of slew of things. As you said, the person could have had just some negative obstacles in their life, gone through a divorce, gone through losing family. A lot of tragic can happen. And what about yourself? Because we may be looking at that person in that dilemma, but what about our experiences? We too could be, we never know how we're gonna face tomorrow too. So you need to look at a balanced field to say, am I empathetic? Am I gonna be supportive? What's in it for me? Is it all about me? Because if you think that it's all about me a lot of times, then you're not going to be able to see someone falling down and say, let us work together and see what we can build and be optimistic.
So what's interesting with that is, as you're speaking, Joan, is something that we haven't even mentioned yet, and that's emotion. When a woman is talking to a man, depending on the subject matter, and emotions are involved, it can be a different conversation. It can be a different conversation.
No, when that's a very sensitive area right there, that emotion thing.
That's why
because that man talking to that woman need to understand that he is hearing emotion.
That's right.
And he is saying logic. Speaking from experience, I'm a logical guy. If I don't see...
Lord, don't go there, Kevin.
This phone is going to fit in this phone case. I'm not going to put
Kevin,
it there.
please don't
However, because the phone case is pretty.
This logic and this emotion is a totally different...
That's a different show.
That's a different show. Logic and emotion. I really don't want to get our female viewers fired up. I really don't want to do so. And I tell you what, actually, that's that idea for the next show. And I tell you, we're closing in on 50 minutes, so I just want you guys to just give me your last plugs each before we actually wrap up this segment. I really do appreciate the fact that so many of our viewers have. I think that there's several things from all folks who had called in, from Tiffany, from Maureen, from you just name it, from Genuine Anne, from Andrea Reed, Stennett Robinson, just you name it. If I don't call your name, it's because there's so many to go through. Love the fact that you call you came in and you chime in your pieces, and it made sense. So at this time, guys, I'm just gonna have you guys, I know the ladies, I see it on their faces, they are ready to say a whole lot more, but I'm just gonna have these guys to close out, and you've given us so many topics so we can actually piggyback on something else, okay? So pretty much, Kevin, last words. Here we go.
Wow. Understand that it's not ever a one size fits all or a quick solution when it comes to the dating game. Understand what you're getting into with the whole idea of dating, and dating over 45. There is good, there is bad, there is baggage. Recognize what each is and adjust accordingly, and then figure out, if this is something that you can deal with or not.
That's right.
Dennis?
I would say, to piggyback that as well, is we should be true to ourselves and know what our expectations are. If you are genuinely looking for something in this individual, be open enough, because sometimes we have to surrender to that individual depending on the conversation, depending on the goals.
Yeah.
So just be open to communicate and agree to disagree, agree to agree, communicate well, and just leave things and see how it actually evolve.
Okay, great. Want to thank you all for coming. Want to thank you for participating. Like I said, I'm so pleased. It's our first show. We are on next week at 5 also. And the topic today, once more, was over 45, single and dating. The good, the bad, and the baggage. Mm-hmm. Next week up is men's health. So I'm going to ask you, anybody out there with any ideas about men's health, drop me a line, inbox me, talk to me regarding this. Because next week we'll be talking about men's health, prostate, facts, fears, and phobias. And I've heard a lot of guys who have told me, I ain't going to the doctor, that I don't like that, boy. It's a violation of my this, that, that. And so much more. So if you want to be, if you feel led that you really want to be a part of our small studio audience, or you have questions or you have concerns or typical things that you want us to discuss over the next couple of weeks, feel free to reach me here at Moment to Remember Studio or just on Jamaicans.com. But once again, we thank you all for coming. Thank you, ladies, for chiming in. Thank you on social media. Cheers, folks. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Happy that you could be part of it, and we'll see you next week. God bless.